name is Wendy Horner. I am first and foremost a mother of 8 children. They are my passion in life. They're the reason why I do everything. And we did adopt 5 children through the foster care system. And I'm on both sides of the fence about that. I do believe the government gets into our business sometimes a little too much. However, in this case, they were all given away. Every single one of them, the parental rights were terminated by the parents giving them up, not going through the court system. So my husband and I adopted them. Some of them sight unseen. We committed to them, and they had various different developmental delays that we were aware of, that we were told was just because of neglect and abuse, and they would catch up. And so we did all the right things, and we caught up on all their delays, and we did what we thought was the right thing by vaccinating them according to the CDC schedule. And when our youngest son, Ryan, was 4, we took him in for his routine physical. The week prior to that, I had seen Jenny McCarthy on the news talking about how she believed that the vaccination was the cause or the catalyst for her son's autism. And something just kind of resonated. I started thinking about my son Ryan, and I thought, you know, he changed after his last set of vaccines. I didn't know that, you know, okay, the crankiness was supposed to be a 24-hour period or a fever, and he would have it for weeks on end. And so I went into the doctor's office and I said, I think he might be one of those kids that just can't handle the vaccination schedule. I said, I don't know enough about it. I haven't committed my research yet. So let me know what you would like to give him. I'll take it home, I'll research it. And at that time I'd said I'd come back and we'd do an alternative schedule. I did not know my rights at the time, and they would not let me leave the office. And they were telling me that in order for him to enter kindergarten, he had to have 7 or 8 different vaccinations. And he was to get them that day. After about 45 minutes of every professional in the office coming through the door to convince me that I needed to do it, I gave in and gave him one. I gave him his polio vaccine because it was supposed to be the end of the regimen, and that was one of the ones required, so to speak, for kindergarten. And it was the worst mistake, but it turned out to be the best mistake. Within 3 weeks, my son was gone. He no longer was picking my doors, my door locks on my bedroom with a screwdriver. His nickname was Houdini. He turned into a kid who sat in the middle of the floor screaming nonstop. He wore sunglasses in the house with a hat and hid under a blanket because he could not take the light from the sun. He couldn't take the noise. Everything we fed him, he would just scream. So imagine, if you will, you have this wonderful, beautiful little boy, and in 3 weeks, he's gone. My mom and my sister were extremely helpful, and without them, I don't think I'd be up here standing today. And we dove into the internet. And like Dr. C said, we read everything we could find on people who had been successful in recovering their kids from the effects of the vaccines. And it was probably a longer process than I would have liked. It took us about 1.5 years to fully recover him. But I'm thankful that we went through that process. We learned a lot of things. We learned what to do, what not to do. We learned how to do it on a budget because it can be very expensive. There's lots of different techniques and therapies you can do. You don't have to break the bank to save your children. And so it was a learning experience. And part of that experience was an eye-opener because when Ryan was diagnosed, it opened the eyes to our other children who we didn't understand. We had just learned as a family to accommodate and to cope with their struggles, and we had no idea that they were on the same path as Ryan. And so the last vaccination we gave any of our children was in 2008, and it's been the best decision I think we've ever made. I constantly have people coming to me after they vaccinate, asking how to fix their children. It is doable, but the key is to know what you're doing before you go into the doctor's office. We've been blessed with a pediatrician who is an MD who only practices homeopathy and does not vaccinate any of her patients. And she's been instrumental in supporting us and helping them. And we need more doctors like that out there. They are getting ready to launch so many new vaccines. Most of us probably aren't even aware. And some of you may not even have children. You may think this isn't even an issue. Get your computers out and Google adult vaccination schedule. There's a new one coming. They have all kinds of new adult vaccines out that they're now going to start pushing through your medical professionals. It's not just the children. And so if you can imagine the children who have these growing immune systems versus the adults whose immune systems are probably at their peak and are going to only head downwards, they're going to be lining up, your spouses, your husbands, your mothers, your fathers for these vaccination schedules. It's becoming harder to stay under the radar for the vaccines. My oldest son in the home right now, we're helping get registered for college. And we just found out that in order for him to attend college, he either has to, of course, have the meningitis vaccine, or he has to have the exemption, whether religious, conscientious is another word they use, or medical exemption, which is fine. We knew that. It's a piece of paper the doctor fills out. It's not rocket science. However, now there's a new company that has contracted with over 900 colleges, and it is required, if this college is contracted with this Mangus Health, I don't know, I think it's a corporation is what it's called, that you not only set up an account with this third company provider, you have to pay them a $10 fee to set up this account. So imagine, if you will, 900 colleges times thousands of students, each have to pay them $10 for them to collect either your vaccination record or your exemption for it, and all of your information. All in one centrally located place where all it takes is a phone call to have all that information sent to whatever agency wants it. It's becoming a huge problem to choose not to vaccinate your children. Know your state's laws. There are exemption forms in every state. It is not mandatory in any state, if you send your children to school, that they have to be vaccinated. There are forms to fill out to get around that. Nor is it mandatory to vaccinate your child to send them to college. Please don't vaccinate your children. It will come back to bite you. The evidence is overwhelming. I mean, the rise in autism just this year now is calculated at 1 in 54. My son was diagnosed in 2008, and it was 1 in every 150. A couple years, and we've tripled the rate. Now, for diseases, that's a pretty high rate as far as growth goes. So they're coming out with vaccines for everything now. Of course, there's cancer vaccines that are coming down the line. If you have children that attend school, they're now, most states have made it mandatory for the girls by the age of 12 to get the Gardasil vaccine. It's now in some states deemed that the Gardasil vaccine, because it quote unquote prevents a sexually transmitted disease, is a form of contraception. And therefore your 12-year-old doesn't need your permission to get it. So in these states, they have put together these little crews that go in and they round up all the children in the schools and they host an assembly. And they explain to them all these wonderful things that this Gardasil vaccine is going to do for them, and then send them to the nurse's office to get it without your permission because they don't need it. So there's all different ways that they're trying to get around vaccinating your children with or without your consent. As well as, I'm sure, if you have elderly parents, any kind of homes they're in, it'll come down to that as well. So please be conscious of your choices. It has been a life-changing experience for us. We have built our business around helping others who have children or loved ones in the same predicament, where they are suffering from side effects, be it autism, be it debilitating arthritis. There's so many different side effects that are linked. The vaccine injury website is just never ending if you get in there. The complaints that the parents have filed, that people have filed on their own behalves, it's like reading a horror novel. We have strived to help everybody we can when dealing with any of these situations, whether they want to admit that it's from a vaccination or a complication of vaccination is pretty much irrelevant. If you know people who have children or know people who are struggling, they just need to admit that they want the help and that they're willing to do whatever it takes. When Ryan was diagnosed, I think we had a pity party for about a week, and that was the end of it. And we just dove in and did whatever it took. My mom and my sister were on the computers all hours of the day and night, reading through things and shifting them through my email. The things that they found had some backing to them, things that they thought might sound like something Ryan was needing help with. Not everybody has that support system. So find somebody. You can contact me, anybody that you know that has had a child that's gone through it and has seen the results from it. It's very key. You need somebody that has gone through it and has seen the results from it. All 5 of our children have special needs, and all 5 of our children have overcome those special needs. Diet, detoxing the home, natural remedies. We use not one drug, no surgeries, none of it. So it can be done. And it can be done, like I said, without breaking the bank. One of the main items we used was the pink Himalayan salt. My son Ryan was suffering from migraines, which became unbearable after he became autistic. And we had stumbled across them. I had heard that the salt lamps were good for migraines. I didn't quite figure out how that worked, but when you're a parent watching your child in pain, you'll pretty much try anything. And so we had put a salt lamp in his room and put him in a salt bath, and 20 minutes later his headache was gone. And he's not had a migraine since 2008. That's a big feat for a child that suffered with migraines every day of his life. So I went to the pediatrician and I said, why? I mean, we were trying every natural remedy under the sun. Nothing worked. I said, why? Was it something so simple as salt? And she said it was the mineral content. And so the more I researched, the more I found that this salt that we chose to try had 84 different minerals in it, was naturally mined from the foothills of the Himalayan mountains. So it's completely untouched by the radiation in the ocean, per se, like the sea salt. There's no contamination in the bottom of the mountains. Obviously, they've been there for a long time. So it's very important when dealing with these natural remedies that you pick one that is effective and pick ones that have not been contaminated. The pink Himalayan salt that we sell, we know exactly where it comes from. We know the chain of command it goes through as far as to get from the mines to our doorstep. And it's not just good for helping children with autism or helping with migraines. It's good for a lot of things. I was talking with somebody earlier who said, my brother has eczema. And I said, oh my goodness, put him in a salt bath. It will cure it. And I told them the story of our youngest daughter, Maya, who is biracial and has extremely dry skin. By the age of 3, she had scars all up and down her legs. Her legs would just bleed because the eczema was so bad. We tried every remedy under the sun. Nothing worked. And so when we stumbled across the salt for Ryan, I thought, well, it says it's good for dry skin. Let's see what happens. And we stuck her in a couple of salt baths. And not only is her skin the smoothest, softest baby skin on earth, but it removed all the scarring that was on her legs as well. So, I mean, it's almost like a snake oil that's good for so many different things. You almost have to use it to believe it.
How do you prepare the salt bath specifically?
The salt baths, there's a couple of different ways you can do it depending on how concentrated you want to do it. I would say start with half a cup if you're looking to just take a general salt bath for either relaxation, maybe you got a little bit of dry skin, or you're looking to maybe to alleviate some of your sore muscles or aches or pains, maybe from a workout. And you can go all the way up to, we've put as much as 2 pounds into the bathtub at a time in, of course, a big soaking tub. But we started with her with half a cup in a regular tub. You're going to put the salt in the bottom of the tub and put about 3 inches of water in the tub and let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then that will help create the Soleil effect in the water. It'll let the salt dissolve. And then you simply climb in and finish filling the tub up to the level that you want, and then soak for no longer than 30 minutes. It's also a natural detox, so it's going to pull toxins like heavy metals and such out through your skin into the water, which is the reason for the 30-minute time limit. If you soak longer than that, then you run the risk of starting to absorb the toxins back through the skin.
Can you please tell us your source of where to get the accumulated salt? With Amazon, place, or?
My website is bestpinksalt.com. And on there I have the salts, I have bentonite clay, essential oils. Like I said, we've detoxed our entire home and our entire life, so anything we've used that was beneficial, you'll find on there. We manufacture our own laundry soap with no harmful toxins. We make our own, it's not a toothpaste because it's in a liquid form, but we make our own tooth cleanser, again with stuff you'll find in your kitchen, which is very good. It's actually really good for whitening the teeth. The salt can be combined into a powder that's a very good tooth whitener. There's just so many different uses for it. We've dipped towels in salt water and wrapped them around throats for strep throat. You wrap them around your thighs for fevers. And there's just so many different uses for them that it would probably take me all day to discuss all of this. ADHD, 4 of our children have ADHD. And we put salt lamps throughout the house, and my mom came to visit and thought we drugged them. Because, I mean, they weren't really hyperactive, so to speak, like climbing the walls, but you can imagine in a house full of 8 kids, it gets kind of rowdy. And I kept telling her about these salt lamps, and she was like, okay, whatever. And she came to visit, and she was like, did you drug your kids? They're just so calm and so easygoing. And I told her, I said, it's the salt lamps. And so we fixed her house up and we put the salt lamps in her house and went to visit, and she was just amazed. And people were like, what does a salt lamp do for ADHD? Who here has a flat screen in their house? I've got several. 60 megahertz, 120 megahertz. If you got an LED, you're talking 240 megahertz. Your brain's only wired to work on 8 to 10 hertz. So stick your kid in front of that and see what happens to their brain. Salt lamps will help block the EMFs coming off the televisions, the computers, the Wii remotes, the Wi-Fi routers, all the stuff that we have in our home. It's a big issue for children with ADHD.
Can you get it from that website?
Yes, the salt lamps are in there too.
What were salt lamp in every single room, or can you get away with like 2 in 5 rooms?
We started out with salt lamps in the bedrooms. They're also really good for healing the lungs. So when we started out, we had 2 asthmatics, one of which had just had H1N1. And about 6 months prior to that, had a cough that was just there, and the doctor said eventually over time it would go away. We put the salt lamp in her bedroom and it was gone in a week. So it will actually get in and heal the lungs. So I recommend, if you're looking to start out, put it in a room where they're going to spend their most time, which is typically sleeping. So put one beside the bed.
What is extremely important is table salt is 1/3 salt, 1/3 sand, 1/3 glass, and 1/3 salt. The medical profession is telling us for a while now that salt gives you high blood pressure. It's the direct opposite. Salt cures high blood pressure. What happens is the glass and the sand in the table salt is cutting your arteries. You bleed to death internally. Then to stop that, the body sends cholesterol there to stop the bleeding. And now all of a sudden, of course, with the cholesterol in there, it narrows the pathways for the blood. And of course, there's higher blood pressure, but only because the cholesterol is saving your life. So table salt is not an option. So now we used to do sea salts. And then Fukushima happened. And since the nuclear reactor accident, all the sea salt now is radioactive. All the sea salt has all the problems from the chemtrails and so on. Himalayan salt is mined. It comes from a mine. It has nothing to do with the contamination from outside. It has nothing to do with the problems we have in the water from Fukushima. The other thing is, here's one thing I live by. I always, when they still existed, got my gas for my car from a gas station that was still run by a single owner. I was always shopping my groceries from the store next door with the elderly lady that was still running her own store. I'm a big proponent of protecting your own. If somebody adopts 5 children with a disability, has 8 children, and these people are such a wonderful family, her mom and her dad and her husband. You know, it comes from the inside. And I tell you something. If I buy something, I buy it from friends. I support my friends. If you have a business and I need something done, even if because you're a small business you have to charge me 10% more, I don't care. I buy from you because you're one of my people. So if you could buy your sea salt or the lamps you need anyway, I mean you need them anyway. If you have them in your bedroom, you cannot sleep because you have this weird thing in your head going on. It's the only thing that helps as protection for electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic chaos, except rolling yourself, wrapping yourself in aluminum. There's only two ways. So that's really all there is. And Wendy and her family are such great friends of mine. I'm always really tan. Her biracial daughter came up to me at the boot camp and she says, "Oh, I'm black like you." You know? But the thing really is that we all need to stick together, guys. Please exchange addresses and information. Wendy is so close to my heart with her husband and her great parents and their children. Stick together. Get her address. And most of all, contact Wendy. What's the best way to reach you, Steve?
There's a phone number and an email on the website.
Okay.
So
website is
bestpinksalt.com.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.